walking or someone on a bicycle, and that can make this extremely dangerous.
You just saw some people out in the middle of the road there with their cars. I can't tell if they're trying to say slow down, but you saw them kind of waving at this suspect. Ooh, boy, they take those turns, and really, they are clearly do not want to be caught. They're driving very recklessly. I think you have them right there, Scott.
Did the sheriff lose them?
Again, we're hearing Scott.
Yeah, the sheriffs
overhead.
did what we did for a moment. Yeah, we thought we'd lost them under that overcrossing. There was a turn. You could go under the overcrossing, the 60, and make a turn. So the sheriff's helicopter lost them, which is really unusual, but the sheriff's helicopter doesn't have them now. So we just gave the sheriff's helicopter the location of the suspect. You know, driving through stop signs, through stop lights, really pretty recklessly from time to time. There are no patrol cars behind him right now. They sort of got away from the patrol cars. They went to a surveillance mode. And right now it looks like driving this erratically, maybe they're going to say, okay, this isn't too bad, and we're not going to put deputies right behind him at this point in time. It's been going on for about 30, 40 minutes or so. We don't know the exact want, exactly what that suspect is wanted for, but we do believe it might be DUI, driving under the influence, or reckless driving. And you could tell here that was a pretty close call. At least the suspect is a little cautious. That was a green light there. We haven't seen him do anything too erratic, but you can tell from time to time the suspects get desperate, and then all of a sudden they take off, and things can change very, very quickly. When we were up close, we could push in. The windows weren't really tinted on the side. It appears only the driver is on board, but you never know for sure. Somebody could be in the back, and we haven't got that information from the sheriff's department, just what we visually see at this point.
Well, and Scott, we saw somebody just at work pulling something across the street there. So even though this person isn't necessarily driving incredible speeds, the aggression here is really putting people at risk, because you just don't know you don't notice what's going to happen as it just bumps up on you real fast.
Correct. No, it's extremely dangerous. There's no question about that. But like that stop sign, we've seen suspects who just go through them with no concern whatsoever for themselves or other people. This individual seems to be calculated. Looks like they stopped and went through the stop sign, but they were able to see that no one was there. We haven't seen him drive extremely high rates of speed, but it looks like we're getting on the 5 freeway northbound. And now we've got some traffic. If you ever drive the 5 north onto the shoulder, trying to get around traffic, even though there's no patrol cars behind him, this suspect believes somehow he's trying to get away from the helicopter overhead. Now, all the patrol cars, the sheriff's department, the CHP, they're all aware this is going on. This is on the 5 northbound, headed towards downtown. Going to come up here in a moment, I believe, on Indiana, Calzona, and then you'll have the East LA interchange where the 5 and the 60 and the 101 and the 10 all come together. And traffic is pretty congested in here just for a little bit. But driving desperately, even though there's no patrol car behind them, so that's interesting. And we'll see what happens when we get into a little more congestion here in a moment. Looks like he's going to try and use the curb or the shoulder to get around. In some of these areas, though, there is no shoulder and there is no center divider. There's some pretty tight lanes in here. Yeah.
Also, Scott, if the person if there's no black and whites behind him, how does this person know that they're still being chased? Is it because of the helicopters? Because I feel like I wouldn't know I was being chased if I didn't see someone behind me.
Yeah, you know, it's not us. We're up pretty high. We're 500 feet above the PD helicopter, and the PD helicopter lost them. I'm looking out my window. They have re-engaged, though, so the PD helicopter may be visible to the suspect. Suspect may be able to peek up and look at the PD helicopter and think, you know, I need to try and get away, or, you know, maybe they're talking to somebody and they think that the further they can go and maybe get into a spot where they can make a run for it is something they might be thinking about. It looks like now we're getting off of the freeway onto Grande Vista. So this is right before the East LA interchange. And the suspect's been in this same spot a few times. So this may be familiar ground. You never know. But when you have a suspect that goes to the same area multiple times, in a lot of cases, that is the case. That see the sheriff's helicopter just buzzing through, that they are somewhat familiar with the area. So we'll see what happens. At least you slow down a little bit. From time to time we see some acceleration. It's when you see a vehicle like this at 65, 70, 80 miles an hour through these residential areas, you really start to have a lot of concern. Not that you don't have some concern with this, but at least the suspect is slowing for the most part and not traveling at an extremely high rate of speed from what we could tell. And it looks like now we veered off into a fence, or through a fence into a field, and maybe he believes he's going to be able to lose the helicopter, the PD helicopter overhead by doing so, but certainly that will not be the case.
Yeah, that's not a vehicle made for this part of town, but this is kind of what you were talking about, Scott, where it looks like a place where he's just going to jump out and run.
I don't think that's not the vehicle, right? That's the vehicle. Okay, stopped right there. It looks like he took off on foot right underneath that overcrossing. That's the 60 freeway right where it merges with the 5 and the East LA interchange. So they're going to send patrol cars here. They're going to see if they can get that suspect. Obviously, if the suspect owns that vehicle, they're going to know who that individual is. And I thought I saw some movement there for a moment. That's not the case. But it appears the suspect stopped underneath the freeway, got out, and now the sheriff's department, the sheriff's helicopter overhead is going to get the other units to come to this area and continue the search. But at least the suspect's on foot. There's no danger from what we can tell to the area with that vehicle.
Incredible, though, Scott. Obviously, you're saying that you think that that person probably knows this area. I would say you're probably right, because the luck, you can't be that lucky when you try to go through a chain link fence and then find yourself on a roadway in the rough area there.
Well, it was kind of a service
no question.
road.
More than likely, he knew the area.
Yeah, it made it look as if he had been hunting for that spot.
Yeah, so of course.
Yeah, it seems like, so now we have a description. The suspect is just wearing all black, a male wearing all black. It's not a very good description, but that's what they're looking for, someone in all black. And you see all the patrol cars now on the freeway, but it's not easy. You know, when you have a patrol car right behind the suspect, patrol car could have followed him through that field, followed him into the area where the suspect got on foot and foot bailed, if you will. And then you'd have a real good idea where the suspect was. But when you go to surveillance mode, that's sort of what you lose. But in a lot of cases, it's just safer to do so. And so that's what we saw in this pursuit at one time. I said 80 miles an hour on the freeway, then pretty erratic in some of the neighborhoods. There was a switch. They were going to go to Montebello PD, and then I got that check. They were going to go to Montebello PD, and then they were going to go to East LA Sheriff's, and they were switching things around. And so they did not keep a patrol car right behind them. And then when the suspect makes a run for it like this, right underneath the 5 and the 60 split, it's pretty hard to get units into place really fast. Now, they're doing it as fast as they can. And it looks like more than likely they're setting up a pretty big perimeter here, and they may get the suspect. But you can tell when a patrol car is right behind the vehicle, they have a much better chance of getting the suspect when the suspect gets out on foot.
Yeah, if they had known if they had known where he was going, they would have access to that space just as he did, or she did. But the thing is, Scott, I mean, it is, as you mentioned, it's still better that road is off the freeways and off the roads, and no matter how long it takes to find this person, it's a lot less danger to the general public when he's just walking around like this.
Correct. Yeah, even if they don't find the suspect, and it's possible, depending on how well he knows this area, where he's hiding, at least we don't have to worry about somebody getting killed in this pursuit with that vehicle, traveling erratically and at a high rate of speed.
Yeah, and I was just wondering, as a lot of us commute, we all use these freeways, and we all know just one little blip can cause all of the traffic that we all know and do not love so much. So I'm
Sounds like, I hate to interrupt you, Colleen, but we do have information. The suspect is being taken into custody. So looks like this is all over, and that's good news. So he doesn't pose a threat to anyone else. It appears they got him. Yeah,
we're watching on the right side of the screen right now, Scott, the suspect going through that sort of service road, that's dirt road, and then winding up right underneath that overpass. But again, so that does sound like a very a positive outcome to this pursuit, that the suspect is in custody.
And even more positive, it doesn't look like this part of town where this is going to be impacted by this. Again, suspect in custody. Scott, thank you very much. That is in the Boyle Heights area, and it's right near the 5, the 101, the 60. All of them are right there together, and but it's not really going to affect many exits or anything like that. So Niku is here, and we have significantly weird weather for the end of August.
That is a really good way of putting it, Philip.
It's very scientific.
Yeah, so we're looking at this weather pattern that's just, it's odd. It's not typical for this time of year. Look how cloudy it is, and we actually had a cool down in temperatures from what we saw a little bit earlier this week. This is a live look at our downtown LA cam.